So we have the first spoilers for chapter 21 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, and it pretty much confirmed what I've been saying for years, which is that Sarada didn't know that she awakened the Mangekyo. We also have Boruto on the cover of VJUMP, which we're going to discuss as well, but first let's start with the spoilers. Now this seems to be a flashback to when Boruto first left the village, let's say a few days or maybe a week, since Boruto is still wearing the bandages that covers the cut he received from Kawaki. Mr. Sosuke then says that something terrible must have happened, something that far exceeds the understanding of normal people. Then it references the scene where Sarada tells Sasuke that Boruto isn't to blame. There's no way he would kill the 7th, everyone's been fooled. Sasuke then goes on to say that we're all being deceived, that is what she said. It is probably true. Sarada's Mangekyo is enough basis for me to believe her words. Now there is another translation where Sasuke says to me then says no. That alone is enough reason to believe what she said. More than anything, it is undeniable proof. So it's like when you say something to someone in a way where it sounds like an opinion, and then you catch yourself and rephrase it and say, no, what I'm saying is the fact. You know, what I'm saying is 100% true. That's pretty much what he's doing here. So he 100% believes what Sarada said to him. Not because Sarada used some mysterious genjutsu ability to force him to believe, but due to the mere fact that she awakened it. He then says that in this situation that we're facing, those eyes will be a great power. This part is really important because he goes on to say that Sarada herself doesn't seem to be aware that she awakened her eyes. And this is so important because I've been saying this for years, and I said this in the prior video that I'm going to mention later on, and people were flaming me saying that it doesn't make sense, and I'm gonna explain why they said it. But here we are, we have confirmation. Sarada didn't know that she awakened it. It then says that someday the time to awaken those eyes will come, and she will intuitively understand. And there's also this second translation which says that the time will surely come when she fully awakens, and when it does, she will understand instinctively. Now I've seen so many complaints online about how this doesn't make sense, how can she not know that she awakened the Mangekyo? This is mostly predicated on what Tobirama said in chapter 619 in Naruto about the Sharingan, which is that when an Uchiha writes in agony over the loss of a great love or in disappointment in oneself, a unique chakra gets released inside the brain and reacts with the optic nerves and changes appear in that person's eyes. This phenomenon is called the Sharingan, the eyes that reflect the heart. So using this, one can presume that if Sarada awakened the Mangekyo, a certain type of chakra would have been released inside her brain and she would have been aware that she awakened the Mangekyo. Well, funnily enough, I did cover this in my video on Sarada's Mangekyo a few weeks ago, and it seems like I'm always jumping the gun when it comes to these things, but there have been multiple instances where something similar has occurred. And if you guys didn't watch that video, one of them was Obito's Mangekyo awakening. So it was initially shown to us in around chapter 605, I believe, that Obito awakened the Mangekyo upon seeing Rin die, which made sense, since Mangekyo is mostly awakened due to emotional distress, as I just explained. Then Madara later said that after Obito gave his left eye to Kakashi and the rest of the structure caved in, he was the one who rescued him. He then brought him back to the hideout where he patched him up with Hashirama cells, thus restoring his lost limbs and organs. And you guys know the story. Now this is all relevant because Madara then goes on to say that Obito surviving could have been called miraculous. It is incredible that he wasn't completely crushed by those boulders. It's almost as if he passed right through them. He then went on to point out that only half his body was mostly pulverized, which is of course referring to the right side that the rock initially fell on. Now as you guys know, Obito's Mangekyo ability is known as Kamui, which has a function that allows him to phase through objects by projecting portions of his body into the Kamui dimensions. So yeah, the logic behind it is pretty crazy, but he's pretty much existing in two spaces at the same time, which allows him to decide which space has his physical body at any given time. That explains why Mr. Kakashi could attack the physical portions of his body that resided in the Kami dimension while he phased through Naruto's attacks in the real world. So when Madara said that it seemed as if Obito phased right through them, this is what it was referring to, which implies that Obito actually unknowingly first awakened Mangekyo during what he thought was his last moments, not when he saw Rin die. That was just a reawakening. Now I know that one of the main arguments against this would be that if he awakened the Mangekyou ability to pass through objects in that moment, why was he still damaged? And this is so funny because I explained this in the prior video as well, but I still had, people making the argument in the comments, so I don't know, like maybe I'm not explaining it correctly. But the answer is that there's this big misconception that Obito was just crushed by a single rock, when the truth is that the entire structure caved in, which under any normal circumstance would have crushed his entire body. So if a single rock falling on him crushed the right side of his body to the point that he couldn't even feel it anymore, how did he survive the weight of multiple boulders falling onto him later on? But it goes back to Madara's hypothesis, that it's almost as if Obito phased right through them, which for one serves to foreshadow his future Mangekyou ability, and also to explain how he survived. Oh, by the way, Kami is stated to be autonomous, so Obito doesn't need to manually activate it, which means that he doesn't need to be aware of it in order to use it. So the logic does track, and it's the main reason why this statement exists in the first place. I mean, Sarada herself already underwent this process with her normal Sharingan. This was confirmed by Sakura in Boruto, who said that she actually unknowingly activated or awakened her Sharingan at a very young age, perhaps due to Sasuke's absence. So when she triggered it on her way to meet Sasuke years later, that was actually a reawakening. By the way, this also happened to Sasuke as well, because it was initially believed that he awakened it during the fight with Haku back in part 1. Mainly because the story made it seem that way, through the dialogue and the visuals, but Mr. Sasuke actually awakened the Sharingan the night Itachi killed his parents and subconsciously suppressed it, likely due to the traumatic experience. So it could also be the case that Sarada wasn't aware of the Mangekyou due to the events taking place, which is what led to the awakening taking place in the first place. So the argument of, Sarada would have sensed the chakra in her brain and all that stuff doesn't make sense when you have multiple instances of multiple characters throughout the history of Naruto not being aware of the Sharingan or the Mangekyou being awakened. Also, I saw some people saying that it doesn't make sense that she instinctively knew how to use the ability of the Mangekyou if she didn't know she awakened it. Which, I mean, if you've read Naruto, you can go back to even Sasuke using the Amaterasu instinctively. And even going further in the B fight, Sasuke just knew that he had Infernal Flame control that could then be applied to Amaterasu, something that even Itachi, the originator of the jutsu, wasn't able to do. How did Sasuke know that? Even go back to when Obito reawakened his Mangekyou, he somehow just knew that he had Kamui because he allowed people to stab him because he knew that the attack would phase through his body. But how was that possible? Well, Sasuke just explained it, The Uchiha simply instinctively know what their Mangekyou abilities are. So there's no contradiction, there's no plot hole, everything makes sense. So you just have to read Naruto, man. You just have to read Naruto. Now we also have the VJUMP cover, which features Boruto and Kawaki. And I will say that this is very interesting because Kawaki has the rod. It's kind of hidden behind the text, so you can't tell if it's supposed to be a part of the background or something, but I think the black on the rod itself is different from the black that's surrounding the V and any other text on the entire page. So I think it makes sense to assume that this is Kawaki's rod, which was of course shown in episode 1 in the flash forward scene. Though I'm not sure what this signifies, is it that Kawaki couldn't do this before his limiters were removed? Like, is it that he didn't have full control over the rods, so he couldn't manipulate them to change the size like Ishiki could? Maybe that's the case, because there's no reason why he couldn't do this before the limiters were removed, aside from that. But of course, it could be that he just decided to, because there's always the because, there's no like deep meaning behind everything. But that is it for the VJUMP cover and the spoiler as well. If you guys liked it, drop a like down below, and if you guys want to learn more about why Sarada awakened that specific Mangekyou ability, you can click this video on screen. Or if you guys want to learn why Sasuke might return through Hidori's body, click the next video. It should be somewhere there. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.